What's up, everybody? We're here for another edition of the News Pod. I'm your host at the Free Toaster, Carlos Caro. I'm with Free Toaster co-founder Nick Madrid. Before we get into our lead story, I want to thank our sponsors, Fintel Connect, Bulldog Media Group, and Spinwheel. Nick, we were just chatting about Dave's, record-breaking earnings since they went public in Q4. We covered it in this week's edition of the Free Toaster newsletter. If you're not signed up for it already, please check it out. It's at thefreetoaster.com. We publish a curated news feed every single Wednesday across consumer lending, marketing, and technology. We covered Dave this week, Nick. Can I just bore you for a second with their history? It's kind of fun.
Go for it. I'm a nerd.
I was trying to get more informed on their story, and as I dug into it, it's actually pretty fun. So their founder, finding his name, is it Jason?
Jason Wilk. Yep.
Jason Wilk. Okay, so he was on Shark Tank in 2017. He was pitching kind of an early incarnation of this. It caught Mark Cuban's attention, so he actually got a little bit of an investment there. It was $300,000. It wasn't a big round, but it turned into Mark Cuban later writing a check for $3 million, and that was their official seed round that came later. And that product was either called All Screen or Early Cash. I kind of saw it both ways, but they kind of went from there, and they got caught in the whole fintech lending run-up that peaked, let's call it, in 2021, something like that. But they started a partnership with Evolve Bank and Trust, which later became problematic for them. And Nick, I think you might have a little bit more color there. But it was the first time they earned a unicorn valuation in 2019. So valued at $1 billion. In 2021, they were they were ranked number 5 on Inc.'s 5,000 fastest growing companies. Number 5. Wild. Because that was a period of hypergrowth where like everyone was getting money thrown at them. Everyone had crazy valuations, and they were number 5 in 2021. They were at a $4 billion valuation when right before it went public. They had their go-to-market for their IPO it was not so much an IPO as it was a SPAC, and I'm not familiar with all the mechanics of that, but that's how they went into the public markets. And then the 2022 fintech winter came, and that's when the Fed said, "Hey, enough's enough on inflation. We got to crank the interest rate up," and it went up. Nick, I was at Caribou at the time. I don't know if you had joined but I remember this very vividly. Interest rates went from like basically 0 to like 5% in like, I don't know, 6-month period, something like that. And that created chaos in the fintech lending world. For them specifically, their $4 billion valuation hit a trough at $50 million. Can you imagine? From $4 billion to $50 million? I mean, that valuation probably feels like 0 when you were just at $4 billion. But they've turned it around, Nick. They're at a $2.85 billion valuation. So they went from 0 to $4 billion to 0 back to almost $3 billion. So these folks have had a roller coaster ride. But today we're going to break down their Q4 earnings and maybe chat a little bit about what we can make out of it. What have you seen so far?
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Carlos, for that. I think we should start just like who Dave is targeting and what they say they're targeting. And so they estimate that the total addressable market is 185 million Americans. And these are Americans that are underbanked, that are unbanked, or they live paycheck to paycheck. And then of the 185 million Americans, over 75% of their stated 14.1 million members are millennials or Gen Z generations. And I think that's important to us as we continue. I know we talked about it in prior news pod. Like, we just want to desperately understand that generation and what their preferences are, where they're shifting towards. Because ultimately it's going to affect what we do and what the people we serve do. So what's interesting about the 150 million Americans that live paycheck to paycheck, like Dave's core product is Extra Cash, which provides users with short-term liquidity, short-term cash advances up to $500. And it's interesting when you think about this and their value prop, because there's some other companies in the market doing this, like Chime as an example. But Dave's value prop is you don't need to move your direct deposit over to unlock this, but rather you just need to link your accounts to Dave, and then you can unlock the up to $500. And I do think we should get into the up to 500 because there is, from what seems to be an still outstanding case with the DOJ on basically marketing, deceptive marketing, which we should get into for sure. But at the highest level, that's the main value prop up to 500. You and I were checking out Meta ads, the database there, and they're still pumping out
I
ads
actually
like
want to
that.
pop some on
So
the screen.
go for it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna we're recording now, Nick. You're not gonna see them. Our viewers are gonna see these, but I'm staring at the Meta library, and I'll just read you some of the headlines I'm seeing in their Meta ads, and I'll link to for anyone that's interested in the show notes for this episode, I'm going to put a link to their ad library. This is one of the things I love about Meta, Nick, is their advertiser ad libraries are out in the open and public. So you can just go to Meta, search a brand, and see what they've been publishing recently. And it's fascinating as a marketer to do this. I think it's just really good practice. So unexpected expense, ? Cover it with up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. So that's one of their headlines. There was another one. Here's another one. Short on cash ? Qualify for up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. That ad published March 3rd, so it's a very recent ad. So Nick, to your point, they're still leading with do you need access to $500? We can do it fast and we don't need to check your credit. So I've been in consumer lending long enough to know that's a very compelling value prop for a user that's paycheck to paycheck or has a cash crunch.
Look, and it's working because real quick though, just to give some context. So they acquired 867,000 new members in Q4 of 2025. So clearly that's working at a CAC of $20.
Those numbers are insane. I mean, that's 200. Let's just round up. 300,000 new customers per month at $20. It's insane. I mean, anyone who works in consumer lending knows those numbers are crazy. Crazy. I actually was looking at, I was just Googling their products ahead of the show, Nick, and I was trying to figure out, are they in affiliate platforms? Here's where I found them. There may be more, but I saw them on Bankrate, Consumer Affairs, Wallet Hub, and NerdWallet. I couldn't tell if those placements were paid placements or if they were just organic listings, like review type placements. What I gathered from what I saw, though, on those marketplaces, that I really doubt they're sourcing that many customers from those marketplaces. And I say that for two reasons. One is that $20 payout. If that's what they're paying those publishers, that's not going to move the needle for those publishers. They're getting paid $50 or $100 sometimes from others in that category. And the other thing is, we were discussing this earlier, they require the user to link to their deposit account so the cash flow underwriting can run before the decision's made on the loan. And that just creates so much friction that it would drive up that CAC well beyond the $20. But something's clearly working for them in Facebook. But I can't help but wonder, I'm still I'm a little puzzled because I see the DOJ action against them. I see and Nick, did I get this right? 1 out of 45,000 people who apply get the $500. Is that what you saw?
So this is from one of the cases filed 11/15/24. So it's what, a year and a half old, if I did my math right. And I'll just read it to you. Yeah. So much of Dave's advertising is dominated by text and images, urging customers to get up to $500, but Dave, quote, instantly. And it goes on to say, Dave offered a $500 advance to only people who got $500 advance only 0.002% of the time. So that's a rate of less than 1 in 45,000. And then the most common offer was $25.
But to be clear, that's the POV in the outstanding action, right?
I mean, uh, sorry,
I mean, is that
say
from
the,
Dave or is that from the DOJ? Where does
this is
that
from the
came from?
DOJ. So they
Got it.
obviously ran the
Okay.
numbers, and this is
Yeah.
the actual receiving. So clearly, there's some deceptive marketing. And this is just one of the deceptive marketing claims that the DOJ outlines. There's others as well. So
Yeah, but to be clear, that case still has not been resolved. It's
from
still
what I can
open.
tell, it's
Yeah.
just still says open everywhere. Yeah.
It's yes,
So
it's open. So this is either, and I don't know which camp we're in right now, but there's either a lot to learn from how Dave approaches social media marketing. We were talking earlier, they get about 30% of their customers word of mouth. They clearly have something going with their distribution strategy. The cost of acquisition is incredible. So this could either be a Harvard Business School case study on how to do consumer lending the right way, or we could find ourselves talking about this once the DOJ case settles that maybe there are some things they're doing here that's not sustainable, given the open case. But I guess I really want to follow this one closely, Nick. I think there's for better or worse, I think there's a lot of marketing lessons here for marketers.
yeah, and just the motion to dismiss was denied in February 25. I think Dave responded to the complaint in October 25. And it says in the latest earning call that executives confirm the cases in the discovery phase. So it's still a lot to be
Okay.
said here.
Yeah. So okay, it looks like they're each getting data on the table. Um, can we run through their earnings numbers? Because
Go for it. Yeah.
I want folks to get a scale for um, what they're doing in the business today. And this is another chart. If you're on the video pod, we're going to display this on the screen. So, and I'll link out to it as well. So I'll compare fiscal year in 24 to fiscal year in 25 across a couple dimensions. So let's start with GAAP operating revenue, 347 million in 24, 554 million in 25. That's a 60% increase. Non-GAAP gross profit from 238 million to 401 million, 70% increase. Adjusted EBITDA 86 million to 226 million, 162% increase. GAAP net income 58 million to 196 million, 238% increase. And then non-GAAP gross margin 69% in 24 to 72% in 25, 3% increase. All the numbers looking amazing. The question is, is there something underneath their marketing strategy that could raise the CAC or severely limit the number of customers they can reach through the way they're doing it?
I think so. If you
Yeah.
this to your former point, if you look at like the product strategy, so the extra cash is their core product. It's a short-term liquidity product, and then there's they claim there's a zero CAC cross sell to their other products. So they have a Jave checking account where they can deepen that customer relationship. And there's advantages too. So like if a user transfers their cash advance from Dave checking to their Dave card, they don't pay any transfer fees. But I did find that currently now only 30% of the funds from extra cash are being moved to Dave card. So it's a very small number now. So clearly that's like a growth area for them over time. And then in addition to like just trying to own that core checking account, they're also testing buy now, pay later, which I think is pretty interesting to us. So, and all of this is underlined with their own Cash AI cash flow underwriting model, which they've had a few different iterations. There's another new model out there because they started charging a monthly fee. Like new members get charged $3 to unlock all these benefits. Other members were grandfathered in at the $1 per month membership fee. But help me understand a little bit more about this cash flow underwriting, because we've talked about it before. Like, do you have a strong POV on their ability to do this and why it's so important? Or tell me
No,
more.
I do a couple angles on it, and then I want to talk monetization more broadly on these guys because I think it's interesting. So we'll start with cash flow, but their part of their secret to success here is they have a very short payback period. It's 11 days on average is what they report. Actually, it's funny. I'm trying to find the post. We posted this earlier this week on LinkedIn, and I just want to read you one of the comments our readers left. Um, this was Michael Mayer. Let's see where Michael's at. I'm looking at his profile. He is at Banco de Credito in Lima. So this is actually an overseas reader. But he's been paying attention to the story, and he said he quoted deliverable sat at or receivable sat at 297 million a year at year end against 2.2 billion in quarterly originations. So he quoted that and he said 12-day loan term question mark. So he just quickly did the math to see like how quickly are these loans getting paid back. And so he back of the napkin 12, and then Dave publicly talks about 11 days. But that's what gives them the feedback loop. So they loan based on credit on this cash flow data. 11 days later, they know, did the person pay back, yes or no? And then they can retune their models 11 days later. It's crazy, right? Think about every other lender. They're lending like 5 years. Credit cards are open ended, so there's actually no end technically to the loan. And having worked at these consumer lending companies, these cycles are measured in years, not weeks. These guys are ripping out a new model every week because the paybacks are 11 days. So I have no doubt their cash flow models are really tuned. But I don't think that it's applicable to most consumer lenders because the payback periods are so much longer everybody else. So that's I guess one observation, Nick, is why they're able to be so good here. The other thing, and I might go play with the product. I might have to get in there myself and maybe try to get the $500 product myself, which means I'm going to have to just use maybe my secondary bank account to do this because it's a bank account I don't keep a lot of money in and I just don't use very often. So I might just try it. But I'm curious to see what the friction level is on the application, because what scares most people in a cash flow underwriting setup is I have to give my username and my password to my primary bank account. And in Prime, anyone with a credit score above like 700, that's usually the kiss of death in a marketing funnel. People will get to that step and they'll be like, oh, hold on, you actually want access to my primary bank. That sounds scary, I'm out. In this demographic where you're talking Gen Z, you're talking people they have a very different view on security and technology. I could see the willingness to do this to be much, much higher. But usually that's what kills a marketing funnel. And these guys, clearly it's not an issue. The $20 CAC is incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think there is growth, right? It's from the Dave Card side, and then even this buy now, pay later. So they're currently testing it internally. They want to launch next year. But here are some data points that I found fascinating. So in the Q3 earnings call, Q3 25, 60% of Dave's members are currently engaging in some form of buy now, pay later today. With Dave currently has a 0 market share in there. And what's unique, as they claim, is that this is a direct-to-consumer model. So unlike traditional buy now, pay later options that rely on the merchant checkout integration, Dave's product is a direct-to-consumer offering, and it's leveraging the Cash AI cash flow underwriting model that we just discussed, and they can offer credit directly to the user, allowing them to have that flexibility and use the buy now, pay later anywhere. And so Jason quotes me.
Are you reading that as they're going to use like a credit card as the transaction vehicle and then put it on a payment plan?
I imagine it's going to be linked to the Dave card. But also, just like the extra cash, you don't need a Dave card to do that. I imagine it might be something similar to like you have the option of like, splitting this payment among 4. And here's what's interesting. And this is Jason in the Q4 earnings call. Quote, "We believe the direct-to-consumer offering, which will not accrue compound interest or charge any late fees, will be far superior and differentiated from traditional credit cards offered to our target market, which are optimized for customers who carry large balances at high APRs and incur excessive late fees." So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. If there's anything I've learned with you over the last few months is like, we have to stop ignoring buy now, pay later. And this is just one of the other data points. And I'm like, we have to stay on
Yeah.
top of this because
Yeah,
something's
no,
happening.
it's the second example we've talked about recently on the news pod where actually we talked about it in the context of Apple, right? Apple created this marketplace where consumers now, every time they make a transaction on their iPhones, can decide, am I paying in full or am I using buy now, pay later right at the moment when they make the transaction. So you're right. We're starting to see this move away towards buy now, pay later is only online commerce, and now it's every single credit card transaction. And Dave doing it kind of first party through their card is I think it makes total sense. It's the right demographic. It's they clearly already have the trust of the consumer in this context. I think that business is going to really work for them. Um, I do worry a little bit about the sustainability of their go-to-market messaging, branding. We'll see how this DOJ thing shakes out. Um, they're probably under a pretty favorable executive regime, like in the executive branch these days. So who knows how this gets sorted, but that could always turn if, and if there's something that changes in the midterms or 2 years out. Um, Nick, any closing thoughts on this one? I think I liked your idea on like keeping a bunch of themes and threads open that we're going to report out periodically on for our readers. I think this is a good one. Are there any others that come to mind for you that you think we should be watching?
No, this is great. Enjoyed this.
All right, cool, Nick. Well, I'll see you next Friday for another edition.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see ya.